All right. Today we will go ahead and talk about quadratic formula and discriminant. This is a topic that some of you might remember back in Algebra 1. But if not, it's all good. We'll go ahead and make sure that everybody would be on the same page, making sure that you know what is going on. All right. So before we go to quadratic formula, we will do a couple of review questions first. So we'll look at these two and we say, hey, can you go ahead and solve the following equations, these quadratic equations? Now, just want to make sure that everyone is indeed understanding the words that we are using, that we are saying. When we say quadratic, okay, quadratic means anything with the x square that is the with as the largest term, okay, not x cubed, not just x, but x squared as the largest term, okay. So we were dealing with linear equations early on, and now we are going to x squared. Next semester we'll learn something more about cubic function, okay. So let's take a look here. We will do factoring. Again, you may use your cross method, and as we said before, it's really time to start thinking about doing trial and error, okay? Thinking about what two numbers multiplying will get you 12, and then what two numbers, the same two numbers that can multiply to get you 12, and how they will add to get you 7. So it's pretty much, just like the cross method, okay, but in our head. And then now this is the thing, okay, I'm gonna emphasize this a little bit more at this moment, and that is, it is very important that you understand the purpose you do every single step, okay? A couple of things right here. It's very important that we set it equal to 0. Very important. Okay. If it's not equal to 0, we must have a 0. And the reason, okay, make sure you ask yourself these why question. Why 0? Okay. Why? Because when we have a 0, we can say, hey, you have two things multiplying together, isn't it? You have this thing right here and this thing right here. And since you have two things multiplying to get you 0, you have two possibilities to make the statement true. One possibility is that x plus 4 could equal to 0. The other possibility is that x plus 3 is equal to 0. So either one of these two parentheses could be 0. Then you have a true statement. Okay. It is very depressing to see students just knowing how to do things, but not knowing how to explain things. It's just kind of sad, and I don't want this kind of sadness to be part of you. So I hope you can constantly ask yourself, do you know why you are doing the steps? And even better, explain to your friends, explain to your peers, so that you know why we are doing this. And again, since day one, we've been talking about the meaning of the word solve is to find values to make a statement true. And with x being these two values, it will make this statement true. Okay. All right, so that's factoring. That's easy. Okay, let's move ahead to the one next door. And we will factor, and this is a prime number, which is excellent. We have 2x and x. That gives us 2x squared. And then we think about, what two numbers would get us negative 15? And when we do the FOIL, as we do the inner and the outer, okay, how would it give us positive x, right? So let me think about this. Okay, let me think about this. I'm thinking about this. Okay, and so I'm going to, and this is how I figure it out. I'm going to try to validate what I tried. The outside 2x times 3 is 6x, is a positive 6x. The inside would be minus 5x, and when they add up together, you do have plus x. So that's how I know I've got my number combinations done correctly. And that's equal to 0. Again, it's very important to have a 0. And so we have 2x minus 5, it's equal to 0, or x plus 3, it's equal to 0, and 2x is equal to 5, and x is equal to 5 halves, or x is equal to -3. Okay, so that's very easy. All right, just a little quick review that we can solve things by factoring. And now we say, let's go ahead and consider the following quadratic equation, and could we solve it by factoring? Could we solve this by factoring? Is there a pair of numbers that can multiply to get us -3? I mean, that's a prime number, so it's going to be either -1 and +3, or +1 and -3. And would they add up to 5? That's not possible. So, well, we've got a little trouble here that we have a quadratic equation and we cannot do any sort of factoring. So we are kind of crippled at this point. So we say, hey, what can we do to figure this one out? Well, we will go ahead and use a tool. And this tool is known as quadratic formula. And this is something you learned back in Algebra 1, and it's something that everyone who knows about quadratic equations should know. This is the quadratic formula. So if you have a quadratic formula, and if you have a quadratic equation that exists in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. Again, the emphasis here is it has to equal to 0. Okay, and you can go ahead find out the x value that would make it true. Okay, and the numbers here, after you crunch it in, you would get the solutions, and they are also known as the roots. Okay, they are also known as the roots. Now, there's a little little fine print over here. So what does it mean? And let me go ahead and zoom out. So now, quadratic formula, it's what I considered as a safety net. Okay, if you have a quadratic equation, okay, like the one that we saw earlier, well, I mean, any kind of quadratic equation can be solved by using quadratic formula. Okay, you can always use it, but should you use it, then we say, well, we always want to consider something easy first, such as factoring. If factoring doesn't work, then you can trigger the use of quadratic formula. Okay, so you don't want to go straight to quadratic formula without considering the option of factoring. Okay, so that's the little thing I want to make sure. Like, can you use this tool? Yes, you can use this tool all the time, but make sure that you understand if there's any other option available first. Okay, if not, then go ahead, use this. Okay, so the next video we'll go over some examples on how we can use the quadratic formula to solve problems very easily. Okay.